Well, welcome back, everybody. My name's Tim Peake, and my partner Bethany is sick today, so she won't be joining us. Let's all send Bethany some healing energy. So it's just going to be me. I'll try to do the voices of both parts. And we've got Liz, wave so everyone sees you again, and Beth, my colleagues who are running everything. Just to remind you of a few things. First off, we're recording this. It's just going to be for our use. It'll be on that course page that we have, so you can review this if you want. And just keep that in mind when we're having discussions in the big group that it's going to be recorded, which kind of leads me to another big thing, which is create your own safety, right? We're talking about important things here, and I'm asking you to get a little outside your comfort zone, but you determine where your comfort zone is and how far you want to get outside of that. So at every step of the way, create your own safety here so that it's friendly learning experience for you. So it can be an easy learning experience. Ask questions. We love questions and comments, observations. Public learning is a great way for us all to learn with you. If you have a question, you can just put it in the chat, or you can electronically raise your hand. Liz and Beth are going to be looking at the chat. They're going to, when they see a question that fits into what we're talking about, they're going to bring that to my attention. You'll get to ask your question. I love responding to questions because it really makes sure that what we're talking about is most relevant to what the interest in is. And I guarantee you, if you're curious about something or don't understand something or something's unclear, somebody else is also. They just haven't gotten the gumption to say it yet. So please ask your questions and make your comments and observations so we can learn along with you. Let's see. I think that's got it for the basic logistics. Let's just get settled first. You've all been coming from other places. You know, you've got your bodies in front of the video camera at the right time, which is a great start, but there's more to us than a body, right? We have emotions, we have sensations in that body, we have a spirit. And so one of the things, as we talked about last time, the key to conscious leadership is being present. Let's give ourselves a moment to get all present here with a little presencing exercise. So just get comfortable in your chair, or if you're standing, comfortable on your feet. I'm going to close my eyes. You can have yours opened or closed. And just take a moment to land in your body. Actually feel the density, the weight of your body, that you're more than just an idea floating through space. You actually have a physical being. So just take a moment to land in that. Maybe with each out breath, just relax into your body a little more, settle onto your bones, into your seat, onto your feet. And then bring your attention to your breath. Really enjoying each inhale and each exhale. Just revel in the feeling of that cool air coming into your body. And then the relaxation of exhaling it again. No special way to breathe, but just focusing your attention on the breathing that you are doing. Breath is kind of like the metronome to our lives in a lot of ways. Just settling into your breath, settling into your body. And in a moment, we're going to finish up. And we're going to finish by taking a really big in-breath, followed by a nice full out-breath. So on your next inhale, really fill up with air, seeing if you can make it the biggest inhale of the day so far. And then relax and let that air come rushing out of your lungs, maybe squeezing that last little bit out with your belly. And then if you had your eyes closed, open them and come back to the group. Who feels different than you did a few minutes ago? I do. Yeah. Thank you for indulging me. I do this completely selfishly, just so I can get a little more present with what I'm up to here. So thank you. And just that breath is a way of shifting our context, right? We talked last time about how what we're up to here as conscious leaders is noticing our context and then shaping it or shifting it. And just breathing, taking that moment to get present, we have a different context now than we did a few minutes ago. Okay, so let's recap some of the logistics, how we're going to run this thing today. Liz, do you want to walk us through some of the rules of engagement here?
For sure. So same as last time and every time, turn off anything that might make noises so that you can just be here undistracted. If you're able to have your video on, please do. And do keep in mind to stay on mute unless you're hopping in to ask a question. If you are here with people from your company or someone that you work with in some form, please put your company name somewhere in your name. So you rename your tile, hover over your face, three dots that you click on, and in the middle of that drop down is rename, and just pop your company name in there. This is so that Beth and I don't put you into breakout rooms with people who you work with, so that you have more freedom to explore your issues. If you do have anything that you need help with, or you need to be put into a different room, feel free to send Beth or I a message in the chat. If you're in a breakout room and realize you need something, you can hop back into the main room. She and I will both be there, or send a message. You can contact us in various ways for any kind of help with that, or with any sorts of tech issues. Please do ask questions. I know we say that a lot, but really it is where so much of the learning happens. We'll be looking at the chat, and if there's something that one of us can answer easily in there, we'll answer it there. Otherwise, we'll bring it to Tim, which you can also do by raising your hand or just going off of mute. So I will be, excuse me, putting a few things in the chat shortly. One will be the intro course page, and I'll drop that in again at the end. And the other is the packet that we'll be looking at today. So if you don't have it already downloaded or printed, you'll be able to grab it shortly from the chat after I finish talking, so I'm not multitasking. If you need to take a bio break, just please do take care of yourself, get up, move around, eat, go to the bathroom. If you're able to do it when we're in the big group and not in your breakout rooms, that's ideal. And then always, if you are willing, please volunteer when there's coaching offered. So at times throughout this course, Tim and or Bethany will offer opportunities to work through some of these things that we're teaching. And that is where a lot of the learning seems to really sink in. So please do volunteer. It's really quite amazing coaching from these coaches who are the facilitators here. So the last thing is we'll be hanging around at the end of the class. So if you have questions that aren't specifically related to the content today and you want to ask it kind of quickly at the end, know that there'll be a couple minutes then where you can do that. Beth, Tim, anything to add?
I think you got it. Thanks, Liz.
Have fun, everyone.
Okay, gang. Well, let's get warmed up a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to start out by putting you in breakout rooms. So a small little group. And the prompt here is, what'd you learn last time? Okay. What did you learn as you practiced this question that we focused on last time of locating yourself? Where am I? What was that like for you? As periodically throughout the week, hopefully your phone was reminding you, where am I? What'd you notice? What was that like for you? So you're going to have 2 minutes each. You'll be in those rooms. And so you can avoid arguing over who goes first. The person who lives closest to Santa Cruz, California, where I am right at this moment, that person, the person who lives closest to Santa Cruz, they go first. And then the person who lives next farthest and then farthest goes, okay? So what was it like building the practice of locating yourself? Have fun. We'll see you back here in about 7 minutes.
Okay.
All right. Sorry, Tim, I have one last minute thing I'm checking here.
Oh, okay, great.
And then we'll get everyone into their rooms.
Okay. Yeah, and by the way, don't fall into the temptation of saying, oh, it was great, everything was cool. Like, share the struggles too. Like, wow, sometimes I'd be reminded at a really inconvenient time and I just didn't want to do it. So share the full picture, okay, with your colleagues in those breakout rooms. We want to see reality here. Conscious leaders love telling the truth about reality rather than putting on that happy face that lives in social media.
All right, breakout rooms are open. All right, folks are coming back in. We've got probably 20 seconds left before breakout rooms close completely.
Okay. Welcome back. Okay, welcome back. Hope you're feeling a little warmed up, a little connected to each other, bring back some memories of a week ago. So I just want to review where we've been and where we're headed on this cruise of conscious leadership. So this class is built around these 4 questions of conscious leadership. And Liz, could you put up that slide so we can get a visual reference? So these are the 4 questions that conscious leaders ask themselves virtually all the time. The first one is what we looked at last week. Where am I? Can I locate myself? Can I spot my context? Above the line, open, curious, interested in learning. I trust. Below the line, which I spend most of my time there, there's a threat out there. There's a problem. I'm closed. I'm wanting to be right to protect my ego. So that's what we looked at last week. Now, the 3 other questions are, can I accept myself for being just where I am? That's what we're going to look at today. Assuming I'm below the line, for instance, can I accept myself for being there? And also, can I accept myself for being above the line? Then next week, we're going to look at, am I willing to shift? If I find myself below the line, I've located myself, yep, I'm in threat. I can accept myself that, yeah, this is where I am. Now, am I willing to shift? Would I be willing to shift from below the line to above the line? Which is a great question, because sometimes the answer is going to be no. And then finally, if I am willing to shift, how will I shift? That's going to be our last class together. We're going to spend a lot of time looking at all these different moves we can make to shift our context from threat to trust, from below the line to above the line. So that's, again, the map of where we're headed. Today, we're going to look at, can I accept myself for being exactly where I am? Which, for you high achievers out there, is a difficult question to answer, because you're reflexively going to say, no, I should be better than this. So we're going to do a little work on that, seeing if you can actually accept what is going on. So just let's get back in the zone a little bit by refreshing our memory on an issue. Again, we need an issue to work with, some relational issue that you're struggling with, something that involves another person. We're going to work with that again today. You can pick up the question, the relational issue that you had last week. So mine, for instance, was, my biggest complaint about Erica, my CEO, is she doesn't tell me what's going on. So if that issue still feels like a good one for you, work with that today. If you're thinking, I'm kind of tired of that, or it wasn't such a good one, or whatever, feel free to come up with a different issue. And remember, it should be something that involves another person. And the way to find it is something you complain about. Oh, the marketing department, they're always behind schedule. Great one. My daughter, she's not going to practice. Right? Okay, another great one. And again, see if you can pick something that's significant, it's meaningful, and is a little outside your comfort zone, but not way outside your comfort zone, because you're going to be talking about it with other people. Okay? So I want to give everyone a moment just to recall their issue or come up with a new issue. If anyone's having trouble, raise your hand and we'll make sure you get a good issue to work with. I guarantee you have them. You know, even the Dalai Lama gets triggered. You know, one of the people that I think of as a real master of presence and context. He writes in his books repeatedly how, yep, I get triggered, I get upset. So we all do it. And one of the things I want to do here is create space for you to just be human, that you don't have to be better than you are. Again, getting to this acceptance that we're going to be looking at. Okay, so what we're going to do, gang, now that you've got your issue in mind, is you're going to go back into breakout rooms and you're going to talk about the issue, but this time you're going to talk about how you go below the line around your issue. So maybe you give a little bit of background. Yeah, you know, my daughter, she said she really wanted to play the cello. So we got her this cello. She took lessons and she won't practice. She won't practice. She's not getting any better. We feel like we wasted our money. And I'm worried that this is going to be a lifelong habit for her. So a little bit of background. And then how is it that you know you're below the line? What are those signs? And if you remember, we had that sheet that you worked on last week, locating yourself, and you circled some statements, behaviors, and beliefs. Maybe you pull that one up and you say, oh yeah, you know, I find myself saying she should practice. But anyway, you're going to talk about how you go below the line around your issue, how you know that you're below the line, okay? And again, you're each going to have 2 minutes. The person who lives farthest away from Santa Cruz, California, you get to go first this time, okay? And then the next farthest person, and then the closest person. Everybody good? Beth, you want to send them on their merry way?
Absolutely. Breakout rooms are open.
Wow. And did you take that photo?
Yeah, I did take it.
Oh, cool. You lucky person. You got to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully this brought back some memories. You're back in the groove now. And, you know, as we talked about last week, when we are below the line, we're in drama, right? We're on that drama triangle. We're either acting as a victim at the effect of something, a villain, blaming or finding fault with something, or a hero, trying to provide some temporary relief. A lot of times we're doing all three in rapid succession. And, you know, drama is super fun. We spend a lot of time there. It's very familiar, but it doesn't really get us anywhere. It certainly doesn't get us what we most want. It maybe is a good stand-in. And yet I find myself in drama repeatedly throughout the day. Our natural state is to be in some sort of mild state of threat. And yet I know it's not really what I want, but I'm there. And sometimes I can't even get myself out of it when I try to. So why do we spend so much time in drama? You know, in many ways, human psychology is actually very reward oriented. We do the things we do because we get something out of it in some way. It might not be what we think we want, but at some level, we're getting some goodies from being in drama. And I want to talk about those payoffs or those goodies that we get in drama, because until we can understand them and actually spot and see, oh, this is what I'm getting at some psychological level, I'm getting these goodies. Until we can see that, it's going to be very hard for us to break the habit and let go of those payoffs that we're getting so that we can get back above the line and maybe get what we really want. So if you go back to that PDF, that worksheet on that first page and look at step 3, what it says there is acknowledge the payoffs that you are getting from keeping this issue going from below the line. That is, what are the goodies you're getting from being on the drama triangle? Now, again, these aren't necessarily payoffs that you get at the conscious level, right? But at some deeper level, some subconscious level, you're getting these payoffs. And I want to go through, these are some of the common ones that we get. I want to go through these. And as we go through them, just mark down for yourself, oh, is that one of the things I'm getting from being below the line around my issue? And if it is, just, you know, put a little check in the box or write it down somewhere so you begin to put together the list of all the payoffs you're getting. So the first one is, I get to avoid my core feelings, especially feelings of fear, sadness, or anger. The big three that are very uncomfortable that most of us don't like to be with. So as I think about my issue with my CEO, Erica, right? She's not telling me what's going on. Yeah, by being in drama with Erica and being a villain and blaming her, she should be more communicative. I know I get to avoid my feelings of anxiety, of fear. Yeah, I don't know what's going on. And in fact, really, there's no way to know what's going on, especially in the business world, especially these days, right? Like, I don't know if our business is going to be successful this year. And so that builds up fear. But instead, if I can just blame the CEO and say, she should really tell us more of what she's doing to address the downturn in the economy and tell us what the strategy is, I don't have to be with my fear. Instead, I can be a little bit frustrated and angry with her, which for me feels a lot more comfortable. I'm much more comfortable being angry than I am being scared. And certainly the way I was raised, it was more acceptable for men to be angry than be scared. Being scared feels a little vulnerable. So maybe you're getting that. Maybe it's a way that you can avoid some feelings that you'd rather not be with. Another thing that we often get is connection, right? The drama triangle is a way to stay connected with people. It's not an especially effective or healthy way to stay connected with people, but there is connection because I'm in connection with the other people on the drama triangle. So, in our company, I'm sort of known as the grumpy old man. And I get to complain a lot, like, come on, Erica, you can do better than this. And we've all seen this movie. Tim grumps about something, and then Erica sort of talks him down. And that's how we stay connected. They just sort of know, oh, yeah, we can count on Tim for this. And we get to be together without having to really tell the truth to each other. So maybe that's something you get. Like, yeah, I get to stay connected with this other person that I'm in drama with. And if I stop that, if I said I'm not going to do it, maybe we wouldn't have any connection anymore. I can remember one of my best friends at work when I worked in the corporate world. He and I would get together at the end of the day and spend the review the day and all the stupid things that other people had done and how they were doing it wrong and how it was causing problems for the company and they should just be fired. And we spent all of our time doing that. And we would get together on weekends and go for a bike ride. We do the same thing. That's all we were doing. And finally, I kind of got tired of it. I was doing this work and I realized I don't really want to be doing that. That's not a lot of fun. It just feels kind of yucky. It's not the energy I want. And so I remember saying to my friend Bill, I said, Bill, I love being with you, but I don't want to talk about work. And I especially don't want to complain about work when we're together. Can we just do something else? And he said, yes, but what I found was actually that's what we kept doing. He couldn't stop doing it. And finally, I got to the point of, wow, if this is the basis of our relationship, I'm willing to step out of this relationship. And so we really don't talk that much anymore because I don't want to go there. So that's a tough thing to think, wow, I might actually be saying goodbye to some people if I get off the drama triangle. Then this third one, I get enlivened by adrenaline. Right? Have you ever had the experience where you're complaining about something and you're getting worked up? Like, oh, it's, you get the flywheel going and you're really excited about this. That's adrenaline working. When we're in drama, there's a certain amount of adrenaline that keeps it going. And adrenaline is a highly addictive substance for the human brain. And adrenaline feels a lot like being alive. We sort of feel enlivened, but it's that nervous, brittle, costly kind of enlivening. That isn't very sustainable, but it's certainly, we get a fix. Yeah, I get to complain about them. And whenever I complain about my CEO, I actually get a nice jolt of, yeah, I'm right, she's wrong. So adrenaline, maybe you're getting that. How about this? I get to stay in the familiar and avoid the unknown. Remember, the drama triangle is a very familiar game for most of us. I have complained about my boss my entire working life. There's always been something that I've found lacking in the person telling me what to do. And it's very familiar. The idea that my boss could actually have my best interest at heart and that we could be aligned is pretty foreign to me. So I get to stay in the familiar by finding something to complain about my boss about. And if I got out of that, if I said, I'm just not going to complain about Erica anymore, that's new territory. And I start to get worried like, well, wait a minute, if I'm not going to allow myself to complain, how will she know when she's missing something? Or how will she know to up her game? Or like, how will I get what I want if I can't complain? It actually feels a little scary because that's the language that I know in terms of dealing with my boss. But staying on the drama triangle is pretty familiar. How about this? It gives me something to do or a compelling story to tell. This is gossip, gang, right? There's nothing more fun than getting together with somebody and saying, can you believe what they just did? Right? That was the dumbest thing. And have somebody say, yeah, you're right. And then they did this. And I couldn't believe it when she said that. Yeah. And did you see how he chimed in? Like, it can be very entertaining. This is water cooler gossip. And it's a great way to pass the time. Doesn't really lead to much, but it's a way for us to stay connected and entertain ourselves, right? Look at Hollywood. Hollywood is an industry built on drama. What's a movie? A movie is just, there's a problem, there's drama, and we're going to see how it plays out. That keeps us engaged. Humans love drama. It's very entertaining. How about this? I get to avoid taking responsibility for my issues, right? To the extent that I'm complaining about Erica not being communicative enough, I don't have to take responsibility for, well, gosh, Tim, how would you like it to be? What's your idea? What would you like to see out of the CEO? And would you be willing to say that and work for that? For me, I just get to sit back in the back seat and say, yeah, our driver doesn't know what she's doing, but, pass me another bag of chips. I don't have to take any responsibility, and it's very easy. Whereas if I really had to lean in and be an active participant, that might require some work and might actually get me into uncomfortable territory. And then finally, one of the biggest payoffs we get from being in drama below the line is we get to be right. The ego loves to be right. Being right is the oxygen for the ego. When we're wrong, when we judge ourselves to be wrong, it feels like existential death to the ego. So when we're below the line, we get to be right to the point of righteous. So for me, it's not just, yeah, Erica should communicate more. There's this righteous quality, like she is wrong. A good CEO would tell me what's going on more regularly. So think about your issue. What are you getting to be right about? Most basically, a lot of times what we get to be right about is this is a problem. This is a big problem, gang. Why don't you all see this as a problem? By the way, I'm the only one in our company who sees this as a problem, which is my first clue that maybe it has more to do with me than her. So think about what you get to be right about and jot that down. What are a few things that you get to be right about your issue? And you might have a ton of evidence to support that. Like, yes, I know I'm right. The facts support me. But just notice that righteous quality of like, I'm going to die on this hill. I know I'm right about this. And just make a note of that. Okay, so hopefully you all have checked off a few things. You know a few of the payoffs that you're getting. Maybe one or two things that you're getting to be right about around your issue from below the line. And what we're going to do is you're going to go back in those breakout rooms and you're going to talk for 2 minutes about what the goodies are. What are you getting from being in drama? What are the guilty little pleasures that you're getting from this? The junk food of psychological wholeness that you get from your issue right here. Just say, yeah, I get to be right about that this is a problem. I get to be right about a real leader would do this differently. So you're going to have 2 minutes to share that. And again, let's go back to the person who's closest to Santa Cruz. You go first. And you'll have 2 minutes. We'll see you back here in about 7 minutes. Beth, you ready to send them on?
I sure am.
Okay, gang.
Breakout room.
Oh, you overachievers are back again. First one's back. Welcome back. Wait for the others to get here. Just a few more seconds. Okay, welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you're getting a little more insight into why you might be so dedicated to drama. We get good things from it at some level, not necessarily the level that we want. Now, this whole racket, this whole being below the line, being in drama, is run by threat. We've used that word a bunch. When we're below the line, we're in a state of threat. There's a problem. We're worried that we're not going to get something important. And the we that we're talking about is the ego. Our ego is after three things. It's after security, right? I want to know that I'm secure. The ego is an amazing thing. It's what allows us to survive. Thank goodness we have them. So the ego is always looking for security. Am I going to be safe? It's also looking for control. When I feel in control, I feel a little safer. And then finally, approval. I want the approval of the other folks in the tribe. You know, back in the day, approval was essential for survival. Humans only can survive in groups. And if we didn't have the approval of the group, if we were cast out, that was an existential threat. So the human ego is always scanning for these three things: security, control, and approval. And when it thinks one of those is at threat, it goes below the line. It gets triggered. Fear comes up. What do? I don't feel that I'm in control, or they're giving me a funny look. Maybe they don't approve of me anymore, or this isn't going to work out. Security, control, and approval. The ego is always, always looking for that and then running its little racket to try and get it. And over the years that you've been alive, you've come up with some ways to assuage that fear and get enough security, enough control, and enough approval. So that's what's running this racket of being below the line. The ego gets triggered by the perceived loss of security, control, or approval, sometimes all three at the same time. So as you think about your issue that you've brought up, that you've been working with so far today, what feels most at threat? It might be all three, might be two of the three, but what feels most at threat? Security, control, or approval? And when you land on what feels most at threat, just type it in the chat. Let's sort of crowdsource a little bit of where are we scaring ourselves? What feels most at threat around your issue? Control, yeah. Approval, security, great. So again, we're building our capacity to see ourselves in action. We're building our self-awareness by saying, I'm in a state of threat. What could possibly be threatened? Oh yeah, security feels threatened, or my sense of control or approval. Knowing that sets us up to begin to do something about it. So we've talked about how this whole racket of being below the line is run by fear. And some of you might be thinking, okay, well, I just need to be more courageous. Bravery is the antidote to fear. I just need to sort of get a little braver, get a little more backbone here. Some of you are probably quite good at that, especially those of you who are used to achieving goals, right? You just head first, go after it, get your courage on. But what we found is that way of doing it, of forcing ourselves to get brave, to find our courage, to overcome this fear. Well, I'm just going to do it anyway. First off, it's not very friendly. It's not a whole lot of fun to be constantly forcing ourselves sort of with a bayonet at our backs to lean into the fear or just get over it, or it's not such a big deal. It's not a very friendly way to go. And actually, it stops working after a while. After a few decades of beating yourself into being braver and facing these things and just getting over it, your psychology just gets a little tired of it and it doesn't work anymore. When I sort of hit my 40s, that racket stopped working. It just, and I wasn't able to force myself to be the way that I had figured I had to be to survive. And that was a real problem for me. And instead, what we found, instead of courage or bravery or making ourselves get above the line, what we find a more sustainable change is, ironically, is acceptance. can I accept myself for being scared? Can I accept myself for being in a state of threat, for feeling like my security, my control, or my approval is in question? Now, for some of you, this is a freaky thing. Like, oh no, hold on. I don't like that feeling at all. I'm trying to overcome that. You're telling me I have to accept it? Like, hard stop, no. So this is going to be more difficult for some of you than others. But sometimes it helps to think, those of you who have young people in your lives, kids, nieces, nephews, students, little kids. Little kids get scared by a lot of things because there's a lot in the world that they haven't experienced that is more powerful and bigger than them. So they have a lot of opportunity to scare themselves. And what works best in dealing with those little scared ones, those 3 and 4-year-olds who are scared? You probably don't grab them by the shoulder and say, hey, snap out of it. It's not that bad, right? On a good day, at least. Instead, it's probably something like, hey, come here. Let me hold you. It's okay. You're scared. It's going to be fine. And to give them that acceptance and reassurance, not making them wrong for being scared, but instead, it's okay. You're going to get over this. It's going to be fine. That compassion we can give to others, but sometimes it's a little harder to give to ourselves. But here's the thing. The human ego is basically a scared 3-year-old. It goes through the world in a heightened state of alertness, looking for threats to security, control, and approval, just like a scared little kid. And if we want the ego to calm down, if we want to loosen the grip of drama, we're going to have to give ourselves some self-compassion. Can I just accept myself for being exactly where I am, for being as triggered as I am right now, for being as big a jerk as I've been? Can I just breathe in a little self-compassion? It's a tough question, and it's a genuine question. And some of you may have the answer no. And there's ways to deal with that too. So as we explore this idea of acceptance, I'm curious, I'd like a volunteer. I want somebody that I can walk through this process so far, someone who's willing to talk about their issue a little bit, get on the drama triangle about their issue a little bit, and then let's explore acceptance a little bit. Rob, you got your hand right up there, buddy.
Let's do it.
All right. Thanks for volunteering.
My pleasure.
So first, tell me a little bit about your issue. What's this thing that you're below the line about?
So this thing, I am a part of a men's group. So this is not a professional setting. Mm-hmm. One of the men in the men's group is very keen on accusing other people of participating in racism. That he has this story that a lot of the behaviors that go on towards him or towards other people of color are colored by prejudice and people being slighted and microaggressions and all of these things in a way that I just experience like contempt towards him or even disgust and resignation. Mm-hmm. I'm like, okay, these are important issues, but like this just seems delusional and fabricated and is getting in the way of us doing what we're here to do. And for me, really benefiting from this group in the way that I intended when I signed up for it.
Great. That's a good one. Because I mean, that's a juicy issue too, right? It's a real issue. And what I hear you saying is, yeah, the way that he's calling this out feels accusatory and unfriendly to me, and I find myself getting reactive toward him as a result. Is that it?
Yes, and even just thinking that he's completely delusional, that like times it's like, oh, that's interesting, let's explore that further, and then other times I'm like, this is just a fabrication in this person's mind and I have no interest in exploring it at all. So that's
yeah, so he might even be delusional. He's like making stuff up that I just don't see at all. Okay, so would you be willing to get on the drama triangle about this? Because, I mean, you are, but let's exaggerate it. Let's make it a little bigger, and maybe even stand up and, put those bases on the floor, or pick 3 spots on the floor and really amp it up. Like go full Jerry Springer, be a really big victim, like, oh, I'm getting called out, be a huge villain. He's doing it wrong. He's delusional. And then a hero. Well, maybe it's not so bad. I can keep doing this. Whatever your flavor of that is, would you be willing just for a moment or two to really amp it up so that we can spot the patterns of this drama?
I'm willing to try. I might need a little more specific coaching for each of the steps here, Tim.
Mm-hmm. Well, one way to think about it is just allow yourself to go big, exaggerate. Now, this isn't the way you really feel. Maybe, there's somebody in there who's really triggered though, and you really want to give them the megaphone. Say, it's not fair. I'm really trying my best to be with him. And it can sit like, it's just not fair, or whatever your version of this is.
Okay. It's difficult for me to connect with the like setting in which I'm kind of with all of these various ways of being below the line.
You get to be totally unenlightened here.
Totally unenlightened. Okay, so I'm like, come on, you're wasting our time. This again, like you're getting in the way of our opportunities to use this group. If there's something for me to learn here, this doesn't feel constructive or spacious. This feels like you're accusatory. I feel like I'm being attacked. I want to be really open with this person, but like, this is not a comfortable environment for everyone, for anyone rather. The only way that we can proceed without offending this person is to just fully collude with or be in acceptance of the way that he's approaching this situation.
You're going to get on the victim card. What would that be like, right? Like, woe is me. I'm at the effect of him. What would that sound like?
What I'm thinking right now is the experience that I've had of just kind of checking out, of being like, okay, this again. Now,
maybe that's a way you hero yourself, right?
Interesting.
Or maybe a little bit of both, like, oh, this again, and I'm just going to check out. Don't want to create a scene, so I'm going to check out here. But God, can't we just move on here?
Okay, he's upset about this thing again. I'll just like wait for whatever is needed, and I'll be the patient one, or I won't reveal that I actually have these judgments or this anger or upset.
Yeah, great. Okay, Rob, thank you. That was awesome. Really appreciate you going big on that thing. It's uncomfortable, right? Doesn't feel good to be saying that stuff about someone that you're close to. And yet inside your head, the ego is doing that.
I feel sadness right now of like, there's a part of me that's like, oh, I feel like a judgmental kind of take on myself, like wishing that I just felt like more gentleness and compassion and openness towards this person for so many reasons.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like there's feelings that are coming up now that you sort of created some space. And what feels most at threat for you, Rob, in this relationship, in this issue? Is it security, control, or approval? It might be all of those. What feels like it's at risk?
I think all of the above. Like the control piece feels like if this goes into a process about social justice by the way that this person is proposing, then we're no longer here to do what we're here to do. We're here to have this kind of process that he's proposing. If I am somehow unaware of ways that I'm participating in racism, that's like such a unforgivable thing, and that compromises my own security in acceptance, belonging, being loved by these men, by these brothers. There's something about like my own self-awareness that like I feel afraid of disillusionment in a certain sense, of being like, oh my God, maybe he's right. And there's all of these things that I'm doing that are super unjust and inappropriate and harmful and violent to people, that there's like is that really there for me though? Yeah, I'm not sure about that one.
Yeah.
Security, control, approval.
Yeah. It's important stuff, right? Not just with how this group operates or how I get along with this brother, but how I am in the world. Like, wow, maybe I am as bad as he says. Whoa, that would be a big problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So knowing that you're getting triggered by that, can you just accept yourself? Like, yeah, it makes sense. I'm kind of wrapped around the axle about this guy, my relationship to him, how it is endangering some things that I really value. Can you just allow yourself to be as triggered as you are and not judge yourself? Because toward the end of you talking, I could see that, you were getting up in your head and thinking like, maybe I shouldn't be this, or, maybe it's this thing. But without trying to unpack it, could you just, accept it the way it is? Yeah, here I am. It's kind of a mess. No is a fine answer, by the way.
Yeah, I noticed like as I'm kind of considering your invitation, there's a feeling of like sadness or like disgust or shame or something like that. Like, a critical view towards myself.
Mm-hmm. And can you accept that? Like, yeah, I'm kind of beating up on myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The Buddhists say that one of the things that causes human drama, human pain and suffering is fighting with reality, an attachment to an idea of the way things should be that's different from what's actually happening. So when we give that up, can I just accept what's going on here? Yeah, that I'm not liking the way this guy's acting. And I'm furthermore kind of feeling upset with myself, maybe even disgusted with myself for that. Could I just accept that that's what's going on right now? It's like it's raining outside. All right, it's raining. Can I accept that rather than being upset that I'm not going to get to go for a bike ride?
Yeah, I think in a different setting, I would like to explore this. I feel a bit like stimulated it up in my head and not able to like check with this question of can I accept this right now?
Yeah, and I thank you for saying that. That makes a lot of sense, right? You got a lot of eyes on you. We kind of jumped right into this. And can you accept even that? Oh yeah, I'm a little amped up here. I can't really settle into the place I'd like to be. Can I accept that that's what's going on?
Yeah, or even that I feel afraid of how I might be being perceived by the other people on this call, that there's a sense of like, that feels spacious, like just being like, can I accept that I feel that way in this context, in this setting? That brings a big sense of space.
Yeah, so accepting all of it. The human mind is so quick to add on another layer. Can I just accept that, yeah, I'm worried about being judged. Again, approval is at stake in this group right now, right here. Nice work that you can step back and even accept that a little bit. And by the way, I've been watching the comments come through in chat. You might not have anything to worry about in that, but Rob, thank you. Really appreciate you bringing up a tough topic and going through this. Thank you so much.
Something I'd like to explore a lot more. I can tell that there's like it's wrapped around the axle, as you say. Yeah, it's a rich one. Thank you so much, Tim. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. Okay, gang. That was a great illustration of just how much we feel can be at stake, right? This is important stuff we're talking about here. You've all got your own version of this, but it cuts to the core of what you're after: security, control, and approval. So I want to just lead us on a little meditation here, picking up on what Rob and I were doing. As you think about your issue, so just settle into your seat. You can have your eyes opened or closed. I'm closing mine. Think about your issue. Think about the pain that it causes you, the judgments that you have about the other people or yourself. Notice the contraction in your body as you bring this issue to mind. This is a big deal, right? I asked you to come up with something that was a big deal, that was important to you. Just feel how consequential it feels right now. And then notice, yeah, feels like there's a threat here. There's a problem. Just feel that. And first, can you just acknowledge, yeah, that's what's going on. I feel that contraction in my body. I notice those thoughts and judgments of myself and others. Can you just acknowledge that that's what's happening? Yep, looked out the window, it's raining. And now, moving a little farther, can you just allow that to be going on? Can you allow as much of that contraction, that wrapped around the axle feeling as is there, be there? Can you allow those thoughts, those judgments to be there? Can you allow those emotions to be there? You don't have to endorse them, but just allow them. Yep, I looked out the window, it's raining. I guess I can allow it to keep raining. And then finally, can you accept yourself for being right where you are? Can you accept yourself for being scared? That little scared 3-year-old ego that you've got. Can you accept her or him or they for being just as triggered as they are? You're just being human. Don't have to do anything about it. Just going to accept it. Yep, I'm doing my thing again. I've been here so many times. Here I go again. And if you find you can't accept yourself, then can you just accept, as Rob did, the one who's judging yourself for feeling like this in the first place? Can you accept those judgmental thoughts? What we're trying to do is just create a little loving space here for you to be what you are in this moment, for you to have the experience you're having. And for now, at least, not make it wrong. And then take a nice breath in, maybe breathe in some acceptance for yourself. And if you had your eyes closed, open them, come back to the group. Rob, I'm checking in with you. How are you doing?
I'm good. I just had an interesting sensation. Like as I was sitting here feeling my body, there was the sense of like a tight feeling that was almost smaller than my body that I needed to fit my body inside of. And then in the next moment, I felt like space that was just a bit bigger than my body. Like my body had like room around it to be how I am, and kind of toggling between the sense of like, oh, there's not enough space for me to be how I am right now, or there's plenty of space for me to be how I am right now. And I've never like had that image or feeling before. It was quite vivid, like a distinct sense.
That's beautiful. Wow, so well put. I love that you were toggling back and forth between those. You could try one on, try the other one on. That's beautiful learning. Thank you for sharing that. So, gang, we're coming to the end here. Remember, the question that we're exploring today is, you locate yourself below the line. Can you accept yourself for being just where you are? It doesn't seem like much, but it's actually a big change. So I'm curious what questions or comments you have about that, about anything that we've done today. This is a radical step here. So I'd love to hear from you all.
I see Tanisha had a question in the chat, but I'm wondering if it was answered after that exercise. Tanisha, do you?
Sure. I think what I was noticing in this is like being with the steps of acceptance, because I think sometimes we can have an issue, and this is probably what you're saying, but I just noticed some resistance in my body as far as it becomes, oh, it's raining outside. Can I just accept the raining? But like, it seems to bypass if we just jump to acceptance rather than I feel frustrated or angry or sad, it's raining, and like the important step of being with those emotions or sensations, because we can jump to acceptance, just radically accept whatever, but then we're not actually being with what is actually here. And I think what all that Rob was experiencing was like being with what was there, which was acceptance. But like, I just felt an importance for a clarity in my own mind and perhaps other people's on what is acceptance and what does it look like? What does it feel like?
Yeah, Tanisha, you put your finger on something really important. I love that you use the word bypassing, because that's one way that we can hero ourselves, right? Like, it's okay, you know, I was really looking forward to this bike ride and it's raining, but okay, no problem. You know, I'll do something else. And skipping over those uncomfortable feelings of, I'm really sad. So acceptance would be acceptance even of the sadness or the anger or whatever it is. Can I accept all of that stuff? Allow myself to have my experience and not edit it. And most of us are used to editing our experience to be socially acceptable. So thank you so much for bringing that up. It's a really good point. And you're going to have to catch yourselves, because some of you are really tricky and you're really easily skipping over that. And next week, we're going to dig into more of this, like, just noticing what's going on. Can I accept it? So I see some other hands up. Rose, and you've got an Rasha?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you for correcting me. Yeah, what do you have to say?
I guess it's something around like you can accept where you are, but you can, what's challenging is also, it's like I accept that I want to feel right, that I want to be right, and how that aligns with I'm still right though, you know, like that sense of like accepting it, but still being inside it, and that the discomfort of that of accepting something that you know maybe isn't helpful, but also still being really committed to it.
Yeah, Rasha, that's a great point. Yeah, because there's that part that's like, I know I'm right, right? And we still want to hold on to it. And that's fine. For now, yeah, can I accept how much I want to be right? So we're not giving up. We're going to talk a little bit about next week about that, about how to begin to loosen up some of those stories. But at this point, it's just, can I accept how much I want to be right? Like, I am not letting go of this. So you know, as Tanisha said, it's not trying to make it go away, but rather, yeah, I notice and accept how right I feel about this. Is that making sense for you, Rasha? Great. Thank you for asking that. Okay. Alice, all us.
Hello. I'm really enjoying just going through all this kind of unfamiliar, all the steps that you're offering, and finding like the sort of child of the ego at the bottom, right? The part that is looking for control, looking for the security, is afraid all the time. And I came right into my heart when we were with Rob here that it's just I just recognize how disarmed my ego becomes when I send it love, when I send it acceptance. Like, oh, of course you want that. Of course you want that. And it feels more just loving to that part. Somehow feels even easier than accepting myself. It's just accepting my ego. So I'm just wanting to verbalize it, to bring it all in for myself. And thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much for saying that. That was so well put. And it makes so much sense. And, you know, gang, some of you might be thinking, okay, well, I can accept myself, but I still want a solution, right? I still want them to stop doing that thing or whatever. Remember, what we're talking about here is context, our inner context for action. We haven't even gotten to the action stage yet. But imagine how different your actions will be if you're coming from that place that Alice just described, this place of love for myself instead of reactivity. You're going to come up with different actions to take, or even if you take the same actions, you're going to be less hard-edged, perhaps, less reactive, and create a space where others actually can take it the way you intend it. Now, you might still have hard words for someone. Hey, when you say that in a meeting, I feel belittled, and I never want you to say that again. And if you do, I'm going to HR. But you can say it from this place of love, at least for yourself, and maybe even for the other person. So this is a key piece of shifting the context for the action that hopefully you will be taking. Alice, thank you. Kuldeep, you've got your hand up.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm kind of struggling, to tell you the truth. The thing that Rob brought up, so I'm kind of on the opposite side of the spectrum, the guy who kind of has dealt with a lot of racism in his life. And so I've dealt with a lot of white issues that kind of get triggered up for me. And I try not to project my old memories onto white people, but sometimes I start getting kind of just little bits and pieces that kind of, I start associating that thing to old memories. And then I all of a sudden start shutting down. I just start getting triggered. And then all of a sudden it becomes a physical adrenaline rush, or it's a fight or flight response that happens, or a freeze response. And I don't like that. And I've been working on it for years, but those memories are so vivid, and they have so many things happen when I was young, and it was a race thing. So because it was kind of predominant, and then still dealing with so many white people, it's still, you know, kind of that hierarchy of understanding how to accept myself, that I feel that way, and still be able to move forward and maneuver within the white community without, you know, my shit getting put on them, and still just, you know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And this makes a lot of sense, because as you said, these are formative experiences for you. And, you know, even generationally, going back generations, right? Like this is literally in your DNA, and these things happen. You know, it's without even wanting to, people are going to trigger those hurts and those memories in you. So it makes sense that, yeah, you're going to spin right up. You've got your entire lifetime's worth of this stuff coming to the surface. And I mean, first off, it sounds like you're aware of it. Like, oh yeah, I'm doing that thing, which, you know, as we said in the very first session, that's the key thing. So you notice, oh yeah, I'm doing this thing. And then, can I accept myself for, yeah, I'm really triggered. I think this is, you know, a microaggression, or maybe even a macroaggression. I don't like it. I find myself getting contracted and sort of armoring up here. I want to do something. And then, can I just accept that? So this is not invalidating any of that. For any of you, whatever your reactivity is, like, oh yeah, this is real and it makes sense. and I'm not going to make myself wrong for feeling this way. I'm just going to accept it and be with it. Have you had experiences where you can do that, Kuldeep? And what's happened when you can just, not judge yourself, like, oh, I'm about to fly off the handle here, but just, yeah, I'm about to fly off the handle here. This is a big deal for me. What's it been like when you've been able to recognize and accept that for yourself?
To accept that I'm going to fly off the handle or something. Certain times, depending on the caliber of people, I might flee. I may stay there and hold my ground, but then I'll kind of just observe and kind of try to make myself as small as possible. I'm a big dude, so it's hard. What I mean. It's hard for me to hide, but I try my best. And other times, if I can be totally acceptance of my emotions at the moment, then I can show up. But I'll start judging myself on the way that the conversations are going. Right? Am I revealing too much? And those type of armor starts coming up. Like I have to play a part instead of being authentically myself. And then I get mad at myself for having to be that way. So, right? So does that make sense? So
yeah. And it kind of goes back to what Tanisha was pointing to, that we're not saying skip over the thing. Like you're probably right in some way. Like, hey, I do feel aggressed against. There's a reason that this is triggering me, and we wouldn't want you to hide that. But instead, from a place of presence, could you say, hey, Tim, when you said that thing, I got really triggered, and it seemed like a microaggression to me. And to be able to do that from presence, now my chances of hearing that are a lot better, because like, oh, he's right. I'm not going to get as defensive as if you say, hey, you stop it. Now, there might be times where you're going to want to even do that, like someone's really coming on strong, again, from presence, to be able to say, and really inhabit your full, powerful, big body and say, stop that right now. Again, doing that from presence, being that wall of, we're not having that here.
Can I be honest with you? I've heard everything you said, and I hear what you're saying. I start feeling shameful for kind of asking a white person to kind of have to, like, I'm not trying to say that, all you white people are this way. And I kind of feel like, hey man, am I being the fucking dick here? Kind of, this guy was just being himself. And I just took the thing the wrong way because I'm being too sensitive. Right. And that starts kind of becoming the story in my head. And I'm not trying to put anybody else down or make anybody else get stuck in their head, because I don't want them to feel how I'm feeling right now. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. And first off, I appreciate you even bringing up the subject and then bringing this next level to it. Like, thank you for that. And could they both be true? One of the things that we talked about last time was, the journey of conscious leadership is the journey of curiosity and learning. What can I learn here? So it sounds like what you're doing is some interrogating of yourself. Is it me? Am I overreacting? But then on my side, like right now, I get to learn like, how could that be unfriendly? How could that be triggering? Yeah, I can totally see that. So now I get to learn a little bit too. We both get to learn something here, as long as we can stay in connection. But when we get triggered and it becomes bang, and now, that wasn't that at all, or you start, making yourself wrong and closing down and getting away, now we're out of relationship and we can't learn. I want to be mindful of the time here. And Omar, I see your hand up. I'm perfectly willing to stay on and keep talking about this, but I want to talk about your homework before we send you on your way. And then let's get back to this. So your homework is going to be, and this will be on the course page as well, is you're going to take your phone, and last week your phone was asking you just, where am I, above or below the line? This time, program your phone to remind you randomly, as many times as you want during the day, can I accept myself for being right where I am? So you're going to have to check in. And then, can I breathe in some of that acceptance and self-compassion? That's what you're going to be working on this week. Okay, gang, we'll see you back here next Tuesday. Thank you. And those of you who want to stay on and continue this conversation, please do. Got a few more minutes. Cool. Anything else?
just what you just said right now, for both of us to have a mutual growing from the situation, if I was to say something, I guess I'm afraid that he'll take it the wrong way, and then it'll turn into him kind of being confrontational or she being confrontational with me, and then me also coming up to be confrontational. And then the fear, and this is the fear that comes up, is if I get confrontational with a white person, if the cop comes or anybody comes, I'm the guy who's in trouble. Yeah. So then I got to back down. And I'm not even trying to take it that way. Is it worth my energy to build this relationship or to make this bridge for us to get a mutual learning? Where is that person and their personal growth? All these type of things go in there, and it kind of inhibits, I guess, my ability to engage as much as I would like to.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. So the first thing I would say is, keep yourself safe, psychologically safe, physically safe, which is no small thing, being a Black man in this culture these days. Like, that's the first rule. And then to the extent that you want to do anything beyond that, do that. And it's worth asking, what kind of community am I in? Who am I with? Are they willing to play this game? Because you're going to judge the situation and say, well, I don't know these people. This doesn't feel safe at all. I'm just not going to go there. And then maybe the way you save yourself is, I'm just going to check out a little bit, make myself small and observe. But then there are going to be other times, hopefully, when you're in conscious connection with someone, you feel like, oh, we're down for this. Let's keep going. What can we learn? Maybe we're going to trigger ourselves, but it's still going to be a safe space. And we're going to commit to getting untriggered and getting back in connection with each other. You get to judge that every minute. It sounds like you would have to be a pro at that if you're a Black man these days, right? You're good at that already.
It's always a work in progress. So because, yeah, it's always a work in progress.
Omar, I'm curious. You've got your hand up too. I'm curious what you have to say.
Yeah, so probably saying this statement off the top probably based out of fear, but I know nothing. I don't know everything. I'm just really curious about a lot of shit. And what really stood out to me from two sides. So when Rob brought up his scenario in the men's group, and then now Kuldeep, just keeping it raw and real. I can align with both of those kind of viewpoints. And why I mean that is because, like, for myself, just a little context, I'm in an interracial relationship. So my wife is white, right? But I have a daughter from a previous relationship. She's Black, all that sort of stuff. Doesn't matter in the sense of human beings. But what that does mean is that I do experience the things that, say, Kuldeep is actually, talked about. And I always wonder if my wife experiences the things that Rob has talked about, right? And so there's a lot of generational trauma, things like that. And I know this is not the overall topic, but it feeds into the where am I? And so a lot of times I want to be triggered and just react. And I have to breathe. I have to do a lot of those things. Disclaimer, my wife's in conscious leadership. So I have like this internal person who's been telling me these things. So I've been trying to practice them. That's why I'm here. But, for the checking where I'm at, it's a big struggle. And the acceptance of that I've had these traumas that are layered that don't get unfolded in one day was the biggest thing for me, is like accepting, like, I'm going to be pissed because I have a lot of shit to say, right? And a lot of things to feel. And then there's also all right, I do love my wife and it's not about race. And she may be contributing to something that she doesn't even understand herself. So how do I how do I just not try to hold her accountable, but let her take responsibility of that, but not have myself feel the resistance of holding it in, right? So I dig in, I accept that maybe my comment will be below the line. I say it, right? And then I decide how I'm going to actually deal with it on the side. But then what I realize is that, I ask questions a lot, and, not everybody's willing, or not everybody is ready for questions. They think it's an attack sometimes. And a question for me is curiosity. But then I have to question myself of, is my question below the line? Like, is my question to like get what I want anyway and put them on the spot? So I completely align with Kuldeep and what he's saying. I'm not big at any means. I'm like, 5'8", but I come into the school where I have kids who are like biracial, and I look like an angry Black man if I think the teacher's treating him a certain way. So all of these things come up, and then I turn to my wife and I'm like, don't you get it? right? And like she doesn't, right? She doesn't get it. And that's not her fault, but it is her responsibility to think about how she can, I don't know, not align, but like see where I'm from. So it's a heavy thing. I'm not really saying an answer. I'm just more sharing an experience of that I feel you, Kuldeep, and others who are probably going through this, but I feel you, Rob, like in all the things that you're getting, and it's a battle every day. And you may think, Tim, that people are pros at this because they're Black, but you know what? We're actually not. We're actually trying to figure it out as much as white people who are like, shit, I didn't do nothing, right? So it's a tough thing. So I just wanted to share that, just from a peer sort of standpoint.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience, Omar. And you mentioned the word trauma. That's a big deal, right? I mean, the generational trauma that people of color have suffered in America is a real thing, let alone what they've experienced in their lives. We've all experienced traumas to varying degrees, and trauma, it physically impacts us, right? It's a life's work to unwind that. And conscious leadership can be very triggering in that way. And when I said take care of yourself, make yourself safe, that's what I'm pointing to. Because getting out ahead of your trauma and really pushing yourself too much when there's still work to be done is very, very unfriendly. And trauma is a real thing. Racially inspired trauma, trauma from the way we were raised as a boy or a girl or a trans person, trauma that we've suffered in the workplace, all these traumas that we've suffered, they really affect us. And again, can we just accept, like, yeah, I've been traumatized. This is triggering the living daylights out of me right now, and not make myself wrong for it. Breathe and just be with it as much as I can and safe myself, which might mean I'm just removing myself from this. I want to get away from the heat a little bit.
Can I say something? And I'm going to get out of here, but the one thing that came up for me is that I may bring up race to my wife, not a lot, but like it may come up through conversations. And then I start thinking about gender, and am I like being the man and not letting her speak her point? And then I'm like, oh shit, like this is too much for me. And then I hero myself and go away. But I just wanted to kind of acknowledge the fact that through one topic, all these other topics can come up. So I don't want race. I guess my concern is to share is that race is important, but also there are other important topics, and these things need to start somewhere in order for these other topics to be candidly spoken about. And so if you can use your trauma, whatever it is, and bring about conversation, then as long as your partner or who you're working with tends to want to play in that playground with you. I'm fortunate I have someone who is in this and knows what practicing it is, but it's very triggering when you're not in the conscious leadership and someone's conscious leadershiping you all day. It's some real shit.
But it feels like they're using it as a weapon on you. I hear you.
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to say that, but bless everybody. Thank you for having me, and you guys, see you all next week.
Thank you, Omar. See you next week. Okay, gang, unless anyone is just bursting at the seams, let's close this out. Enjoy your homework of acceptance, and we'll see you back here next Tuesday. Thank you so much. Okay. Whew. Wow.